Well. Hello to the BFOD squad. Welcome back to Barrel Full of Daryl, Season 2, Episode 5, Cinco de Barro. So this is where I throw some stuff at you, like I discuss music and movies, and provide some mirth as well as some other funky ass shit, as you may know. Last week I gave you a mystery lyric. Can we have kippers for breakfast, mummy dear, mummy dear? Now that's from the song Breakfast in America by the band Supertramp. Good band. Mystery music. Nope, mystery movie line. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Smells like victory. That's probably an easy one. So at this point, while it's on my mind and while it's on my paper, I want to go ahead and give you another book recommendation. Now, in my early days, I was an avid reader of novels, mostly short stories. And one day my dad said to me, "You're not really a reader if you haven't read the Pulitzer Prize winning book, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry." So I took his advice, and holy shit, what a great book. Now, the setting is the Old West in the USA, where cowboys go on cattle drives, and it really details all the crap and everything that happens to them. I recall one guy fell off his horse into a river and got attacked by water moccasins, was killed right there in the river. Yeah. Now, the paperback that I read was about 1,000 pages long, but it reads like a movie. It goes by so quick. So if you're a reader, I recommend you give this book a shot. That's Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Okay, music. Let's go ahead with Supertramp. A British rock band formed in London in 1970 by two guys, Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies. Now, Roger and Rick, they had very different musical inspirations, very different musical backgrounds. Roger liked pop music, but Rick favored blues and jazz. But they hit it off very well. And they were the main songwriters and lead singers of the band. Now, their classic lineup also included Dougie Thompson, Bob Siebenberg, and John Helliwell. Now, their sound was a blend of progressive rock and pop, and notably their music, they made use of a lot of keyboards, very keyboard heavy. And most songs also included a saxophone and or an oboe. And this gave their songs a very unique sound. In their music videos that you can see on YouTube, there are typically 3 keyboards being played. Yeah, pretty cool. Both of the lead guys, they both play keyboards. Now, at the start, they received financial support from a Dutch millionaire, Stanley Meisegaze. Not sure about that pronunciation. However, the support was dropped after their first 2 albums, Supertramp and Indelibly Stamped, failed to bring any success. They were also dropped by their record label, A&M Records. By the way, the name Supertramp was inspired by a book titled The Autobiography of a Supertramp by William Henry Davies. So in 1973, after a few changes in the lineup, they were re-signed by A&M Records, and in 1974 released their third album titled Crime of the Century. This album gave them two hits, Dreamer and Bloody Well Right. Great songs. So their next album was called Crisis, What Crisis? It was a commercial and critical success in spite of it having no hit singles. Yeah. So in 1977, they released the album titled Even in the Quietest Moments, which gave them the hit song Give a Little Bit. Now, this is my favorite Supertramp album. It's just very musical. It's so well written and so well played. There's one song, the title track, that it was a hit as well. Well, no, let me take that back. It wasn't really a hit, but it got a lot of airtime on FM radio at the time. So did the song Fool's Overture. Now, this song, it reminds me of the Beatles' Revolution Number 9. And you can tell they were very inspired by the Beatles, especially in this song. But every song on this album is really good, and none of them need to be skipped. So in 1979, this band went from being Supertramp to superstars with the release of the album Breakfast in America. Now, this album reached number 1 on the US charts and spawned 4 hit singles: The Logical Song, Take the Long Way Home, Breakfast in America, and Goodbye Stranger. Yeah, great album. I was in the U.S. Air Force when this album came out and worked in a weapons repair shop. And of course, we had radios in there, a bunch of young, crazy Air Force guys. And we did hear these songs often. It was great. So around 1981, they released a 2 LP live album titled Parrots, which unsurprisingly was recorded during a concert in Paris. But at this time, the band was beginning to kind of break apart, especially the relationship between the two founders, Roger and Rick. Basically, they're very different musical styles. Was kind of starting to cause problems. So, because of this, the recording of their next album, Famous Last Words, was quite hectic, and it was apparent at that time that Roger just wanted out of the band. And during the tour for this album, Roger stated during a performance, during a concert, that he would be leaving the group at the end of the tour, which he did. Now, Roger went on recording solo albums, and Rick continued with Supertramp, releasing 4 more studio albums, which didn't have much success. And when they were touring, audiences were disappointed that the Rick-led Supertramp did not perform any of their past hits. And this was due to a contract requirement invoked by Roger, where he would not allow them to play any of the Supertramp songs that he had co-written or written. Also, audiences were disappointed that Roger was not on stage because they expected to see him performing with Supertramp, but he was not there. Now, these guys, they were really great musicians and vocalists. And like all the bands I discussed, their sound was very unique and very original. Now, the albums Crime of the Century and Breakfast in America were diamond certified, which means 10 times platinum. And worldwide, their album sales exceeded 60 million. Wow. I urge you to watch some of their videos on YouTube where their musicianship and their talent is really on display. As per, I've added songs to the season 2 playlist. Go listen, go enjoy. And now a word from our sponsor. I'll be right back.
Well, hello. My name is Madame Marmalade, and I hail from New Orleans, Louisiana, where I specialize in voodoo, the occult, and fortune telling. Now, I recently got a call from Minnie Mae Barden in Scratch Ankle, Alabama, with some weird story about people seeing a ghost of Ricky Ray Bubba, otherwise known as Ricky Rabies. So I came to Scratch Ankle to visit with her and to get more details. She told me that Ricky Ray Bubba was out in the woods hunting squirrels and rabbits when a raccoon came running at him. The raccoon was quick and was soon up on Ricky Ray's leg and biting him. Ricky Ray was pissed off and he grabbed that raccoon and bit it back. Unfortunately, Ricky Rabies had to go into palliative care where he died after biting some other patients. So now some of the townsfolk have been seeing him walking the streets late at night, limping and shuffling. In all of my 46 years, this is the wildest story that I have ever heard. Minnie Mae was kind enough to offer me room and board so that I can do some investigating and maybe hold a seance. Last night, I was sitting on a bench in front of the Piggly Wiggly around midnight. Sure enough, at the stroke of midnight, I saw a tiny, scrawny man come walking up the street. When he walked in front of me, I said, "Hey, are you the ghost of Ricky Ray?" He slowly turned his head and looked at me. Then he smiled, showing his nasty teeth, and then kept on walking. He sure was a scary sight, and I reckon I need to hold a seance to summon his spirit and give his poor soul some peace. I'll keep y'all posted, so bye for now.
And we're back. Movie. I have an awesome stepson. His name is Luke, and I have not mentioned him before. But last week he texted me saying he watched the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, for the first time, and he recalled that it was one of my favorite movies as well. His opinion is that this movie is a masterpiece and way, 3 ways ahead of its time, and I completely agree. So it's an epic science fiction film released in 1968, directed by Stanley Kubrick, who also did the movies A Clockwork Orange, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. Now, he and a famous sci-fi writer, Arthur C. Clarke, co-wrote the screenplay for this movie. And it was inspired by several of Clarke's short stories. And it is indeed so far ahead of its time, and it's regarded as one of the greatest and most influential films ever made. It accurately depicts spaceflight, and it's noted for its pioneering special effects. Now, in this movie, dialogue is sparse, and long sequences are only accompanied by music. The music is classical music, including pieces by Richard Strauss, Johann Strauss, et alia. It also has ambiguous themes, and it will leave you with a lot of questions and a feeling of what the fuck did I just watch, especially the final scenes. Now, this is not a mind fuck movie. It's a mind bending movie. Truly is. In short, it follows a voyage by astronaut, scientist, and a sentient supercomputer named HAL. It's capital H, capital A, capital L. And long, let's discuss this movie. Oh, by the way, if you move each of the letters in HAL, H-A-L, by one spot, you get IBM. Clever. So this movie it's 2.5 hours long. So you need to probably eat a meal before you start it. And as I said, many long sequences, and some people don't care for that. Some do. Matter of fact, it could be irksome to some people. But I really enjoyed the beauty of it. Also, it would be hard for me to spoil the end of it because the last 20 minutes are confusing, mesmerizing, and damn trippy. And if you're the type of person that demands answers from a film, this is not the movie for you. You will only end up with more questions when it's over. Okay, let's get on with it. The opening scene is the dawn of man, and the cast is nothing but apes who scream and run around and pick fleas off each other. Now, one clan of apes live near a water pond, and a rival clan wants to oust them from there so that they can have the water pond. So the two clans, they meet up and they scream at each other and they have some skirmishes. That's about it. Now, one day, the Pond clan discovered a huge black monolith, and they were awestruck. They walked to it and they caressed it and scratching their head, that kind of thing. But, like me, they don't know what the hell it was other than a shiny black monolith. Now, a few days later, the lead ape in the Pond clan is sitting amongst a pile of bones. So he picks up a large one, like an animal femur or tibia or something like that, and he begins smashing the other bones around him to bits. This gave him an idea. So the next time the non-Pond clan shows up, the ape with the bone clubs the leader on the head, knocking him down. And the other pond apes join in. They start beating him with bones and they kill him. Thus, the first man-made weapon. Now, the lead pond ape throws his bone up into the air and it's spinning around, and the camera's just showing you the bone spinning around in space. And all of a sudden, boom, it becomes a spaceship flying through space. So now we've traveled into the future. Now, this spaceship is carrying a scientist from Earth, and it's headed to the moon, which is now colonized, and it's on a secret mission. On the moon, a colony has discovered a monolith exactly like the ones the apes found. The scientists believe this to have been placed there by aliens millions of years ago. Thus, the secrecy of the mission. Now, the moon scientists escort the Earth scientist to the monolith, and he starts to examine it. Now, as he's touching it, the monolith emits a deafening, high-powered radio signal. Yeah, they're all bending over, and they can't cover their ears because they have these space helmets on. So it lasted a little while, maybe 10, 15 seconds. And the scientists later determined that the signal was directed to Jupiter. So they plan and execute another mission to go to Jupiter. Now, in this spaceship, there are two scientists, Dr. Dave Bowman and Dr. Frank Poole. There are three others that are in suspended animation to be awakened when they reach Jupiter. There's also a sentient computer, HAL 9000, that controls all aspects of the ship and the journey. Everything. He controls it all. And this 9000 series is known to never have errors, never have bugs, etc. One day, Hal reports a fault in an external antenna, and Dave does an EVA, extravehicular activity. And he jumps into a pod, and he flies out to, out into space to retrieve the control box from this antenna. And when he gets back with it, Dave and Frank troubleshoot this box, and they find no faults or errors. This gives them concern about Hal. So they go in one of the EVA pods, turn off all the microphones so Hal can't hear them. And here they discuss the concerns about Hal and what should they do. Now, while they're having this discussion, Hal is lip reading the conversation. So Dave and Frank decide to put the original box back in the antenna. So Frank does an EVA to put it back. On his spacewalk from the pod to the antenna, Hal causes the pod to fly and hit Frank, sending him spinning into space. Yeah. Now Dave sees this on a monitor, and he rushes down to the pod bay, gets in a pod to go rescue Frank. And he goes after him, and eventually he catches him. Big claw-like things on these pods, and he kind of hooks onto him and starts taking him back to the ship. Meanwhile, while he's doing this, Hal has turned off life support for the three scientists that are in animation, killing them all. Upon returning to the ship, Hal refuses to open the pod door, and Dave has to position the door of the actual pod with explosive bolts against the pod door of the ship. He activates the bolts, and he and the pod door are violently thrown into the pod bay. But Dave's okay. No harm, no foul. But now he knows that Hal is in fact an enemy trying to sabotage his mission. So Dave enters the computer processor core and begins to disable Hal, while Hal pleads for him to stop. But Dave continues, and Hal's voice begins to get very deep and basically fade out. So Dave continues the mission without Hal, and as he's approaching Jupiter, he sees a monolith floating freely in space. He thinks, wow. So he gets into a pod and does an EVA to investigate this monolith. Now, this is the point where it gets wild and trippy, with only like 20 minutes left in the film. As Dave approaches the monolith, his pod gets pulled into a vortex of colored light, and he observes bizarre astronomical shit and strange landscapes. And this goes on for about 10 minutes with some weird, fucked up music playing in the background. So he finally finds himself in a neoclassical bedroom where he sees and then becomes older versions of himself. An elderly man dining at a table, and then a very elderly man lying in a bed. So he's lying in the bed, and another monolith appears at the foot of the bed. As he reaches out for it, he becomes an embryo enclosed in a transparent orb of light. The final scene shows the embryo floating in space above the Earth. That's it. Roll credits. Now, there have been many interpretations of this film, but the scenes and the events in it remain ambiguous and really unexplained to this day. Some say the embryo becomes a god to protect the Earth, while others say it will destroy the Earth with nuclear weapons. Now, be that as it may, the amazing thing about this film, again released in 1968, the visual effects were all done with models and film techniques. There was no AI, okay? There was nothing computer generated that they could really use. I mean, models, and they would take parts of the film and, edit out the picture and take pictures of the model and put that into the film. It's just amazing. Holy shit, it just all looks so real as you're watching it. If nothing else, even with the fucked up plot, this movie needs to be watched for the visual effects alone, given the time that it was made. Now, I watched it again last week with my wife, and she was quite disturbed about the lack of answers. The movie stops, and she's like, "What?" And I told her beforehand, I said, "You will have questions for which I will have no answers." She found out that was true. And in Luke's text to me, he also stated that he had many questions. So it's that kind of movie, it doesn't hand you a plot. It doesn't hand you an outcome. It's there for your interpretation. Really cool. It's a groundbreaking film that inspired many other movies to come. And it's truly an epic, a masterpiece. If you haven't seen it, you should. If you have seen it, you should watch it again. It's currently streaming on Hulu and HBO Max, or you can rent it on Prime Video. It's worth the price, believe me. Okay. Word of the day. No, word of the week. Kaleidoscopic. Kaleidoscopic. And it means continually shifting from one set of relations to another, rapidly changing, such as the kaleidoscopic events of the past year. But it also means relating to or created by a kaleidoscope, which is an optical toy invented by Scottish physicist David Brewster in 1816. And it's basically a tube containing two or more mirrors set at 60 degrees to each other. You rotate the end of the tube, and loose colored objects tumble, and they create symmetrical patterns. I hope you had one of these during your lifetime. They're really cool, and pretty amazing that inventor came up with that 1816. Now, the word derives from the Greek, meaning observation of beautiful forms. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. Joke of the week. A lookout on a ship sees a pirate ship sailing towards them, and he alerts the captain. The captain shouts to the first mate, "Bring me my red shirt." When the pirates try to board the ship, the captain leads his men to victory, and they fend off the pirates. Now, the first mate asks the captain about the red shirt, and the captain explains that if he is stabbed or injured, the men won't see the blood, and they will continue to fight. A few days later, the lookout shouts, 10 pirate ships coming our way. The captain yells to the first mate, bring me my brown pants. Yeah. Question of the week. Last week I asked you, what are saccades? Saccades. Well, a saccade, oh, and I gave you the hint, they're vision related. So the fovea of the human eye can only focus on about 1 to 2 degrees of vision. Yeah, that's very small. A saccade is a quick, simultaneous movement of both eyes between various focal points. The saccadic movement allows the eyes to sense small parts of a scene with greater resolution, allowing the brain to assemble the parts into a coherent, continuous, three-dimensional mental representation. Now, the angular speed of the eye during a saccade is 700 degrees per second. You heard me right. Basically, your eyes move pretty fucking fast to assemble a scene inside your brain. New question of the week. When I walk my dog here in the cold mornings of Colorado, my nose runs. But why? Discuss that next week. Thought of the week. Some people are like slinkies. They don't really have a purpose, but they still bring a smile to your face when you push them down the stairs. So don't forget about the BFOD playlist seasons 1 and 2. They're still hanging out there. I keep adding cool ass shit to them. As a reminder, feel free to contact me. You can send me a text just by clicking on that little button in the episode. Clicky click. Or you can email me directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Also have an option to support this show. If you're so inclined, you can send me a couple of dollars a month. Or not. So that's it for this episode. It was kind of an easy one to put together. Sometimes they're a little irksome. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were entertained. I'll see what other kind of funky ass shit I can come up with for you next week. Have a great week. I'll talk to you in a week. Bye for now.